The young boy can walk farther.
It was a great show tonight, I thought, and we're here with undefeated tag team of Sting and Darby, who have competed all over the world now in the U.S. and Japan, and on both Forbidden Door shows. And I thought it would be great for everybody to get a chance to talk with them and some of the teams and individuals that wrestled tonight on the Great Forbidden Door pay-per-view.
All right, let's start this shit.
Corey Lee with Wrestling Observer. Quick question for Sting. Looked like in the middle of the match you got drilled on your head there. Is everything good with injuries and stuff like that in regards to the match?
Yeah, I have some pre-match problems with my head. So, but yeah, no, I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah.
And then also, obviously, we're coming up in about 2 months for All In London, and that is a very, very big event that's going to be there. Will you be wrestling on that? And also, you did mention about a couple months ago that this might be the last year of your career. Have you decided on a date, or just seeing as it goes right now?
I have not decided on a date for sure. A lot of people have actually wondered if I was going to retire in Wembley. That would be kind of cool, but I don't see that happening. I think I'm going to continue on. Tony's kind of been in my ear a little bit here and there saying, Steve, you can stay as long as you want. So, I'm not sure how long that'll be, but, like I said, a few months ago, the showtime is just about over with, and it truly is. But I'm looking forward to going back to London. Last time I was there, I think it was the last time I was there. I mean, it was a Joker Sting, and the crowd loved it there. And it was not the big arena or the big stadium. It was just the arena, but still great crowd. And I'm looking forward to heading back over there.
Question for Sting. When you go back to coming into AEW at the end of 2020, and here we are 2.5 years later, was that kind of the mindset of coming back? Was let's see how this goes? Were you in it that this was going to be a multi-year? I'm going to be in this for that amount of time, and also just the come down after some of these performances where you are performing at this level, you are going out there and competing with guys half your age. Tell us a bit about what the preparation is like, and then after these matches, what you're going through.
Yeah, in the very beginning, talking to Tony and starting with AEW, I honestly didn't know how long it would be. Yes, I signed a multi-year deal, but I literally in the beginning, I took 1 day at a time, and then I got up to maybe a week at a time, and then maybe about a month at a time. But, I'm still sort of doing that and just playing it by ear, seeing how my body feels. And, I have had these moments where I thought it was over. It was like I didn't feel like I was performing at the level that I needed to. Arthur Ashe, that was 2 Arthur Ashe shows ago. I felt like I was not performing well, and I really thought it was the end. But Darby, we're walking up the ramp. Darby goes, "You killed it! You killed it!"
Peer pressure.
Yeah, no. So one day at a time. How am I training now? I mean, I honestly, when I go into the gym, I don't say today's chest day, today's a cardio day, today's a whatever day. I go into the gym based on how I feel. I'll make the next move. So I have to wait and see how my body's feeling. Long story short.
Hi, Sting. I'm Jordan of the Wide World of Wrestling. Just got a question for you here.
Am I going to answer any questions? I'll just never mind. You got it.
It's been a few years since that you've wrestled in Canada. I was wondering what it was like being back in front of
Stay hot! What, you want to stick your nose in my business again? What happened between me and Naito is between me and Naito, okay? You want more time with Chris Jericho? You want more time with Chris Jericho, Darby? How about this? This Wednesday in Hamilton. It's going to be Sting and Darby. This is what I want, Tony, against Sammy Guevara, but not Chris Jericho, against the Painmaker in a tornado tag match. No rules, no DQ, just you and me, Sting. You want time? I'm going to give you all the fucking time you want. How does that sound, huh? Huh, Sting? Look at this. Oh, boom.
Oh, geez.
That's for you. You're going to get
Chris,
that shit, too.
Chris,
I want it, Tony. to me?
That's unacceptable,
Ah!
Chris. You got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go book the match, Chris, but you got to go. We'll do the match Wednesday, Chris. Please, Chris. I'm sorry. Please, Chris. Wednesday night, the match, Tornado Tag. Yes, but please.
Maybe if Sammy Guevara didn't listen to him, he wouldn't be in that doctor's office right now. But whatever.
Well, if you're wondering what we think, we're all in.
Yeah, definitely. I'll if you guys are ready Wednesday and you're cleared for the match, then yeah, well, let's do it. Wednesday night, Tornado Tag.
Sammy cleared.
Well, Sammy.
Well, you saw what happened at the table.
Both of them.
He's
I
been in
think
the doctor's office all
both of them had to get checked out after that. But yeah, if Sammy's good,
I'm there.
good. Okay, good.
So it's a done deal.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry you didn't get more time. Thanks. I'm sorry you guys didn't get more time with Sting and Darby. We'll see them Wednesday night on Dynamite. I'm sorry about that. Are you okay? Yeah. You got pretty. Yeah, we can check you out. Jeez. I'm sorry about that. Chris is out of control. And then we'll go. I think now we've got, speaking of crazy out of control matches, and somebody who was bloody and injured. Hey, thank you, Will. Thank you. Great match.
Oh, wonderful, man. I loved it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
IWGP US champion once again. Classic match. Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, one of the greatest matches I've ever seen tonight.
Thank you
Thought
so
it was
much.
a great show.
Oh, God. Oh, fucking hell. All right, let's go.
Well, it's going to be a lot of people wanting to talk to you about that great match, Will.
Go for it. Anyone? Hello, mate. Hello, love.
Hi, this is Kate from Fightful. You had said after your first match with Kenny Omega in New Japan that it was a match that changed who you were as a wrestler. You lost a pint of blood. You've never fully recovered. I feel like we saw a really similar effort out there tonight. Was there anything that you learned in your first match that helped you kind of prepare in this one to make the adjustments you needed to win your title back tonight?
I worked a lot on the power game for myself, especially I feel like I've done a lot better after I got cut open. Last time when I got cut open, I honestly felt like I was losing control of my legs a little bit. I didn't have the legs underneath me. And it was just kind of like a 20-minute. I didn't have anything in me. I just tried to fight. This time I felt a lot better. I feel like my cardio endurance was so much better for this one. The training camp worked. I trained at the London School of Lucha Libre, and I get to go down to the Rev Pro Academy. So, like, getting in there was incredible. So I was really happy with my performance on this side. Oh, going on.
Well, Denise Salcedo, Instinct Culture. So I want to start off by asking you, given the high standard that you and Kenny Omega set in your last match, how did you feel heading into this match, and how did you feel coming out of it?
A lot of anxiety. I won't lie to you. Like, I don't feel like I told my missus this, but on the Tokyo Dome one, I've never felt like more in my life like the world's eyes were on me. I feel like after I'd said everything I needed to say to him at the press conference previously, I just felt like the world's eyes were on me, and I'm not really used to that. Like, I'm like, obviously there's the best Super Juniors, there's the world championships, but I honestly felt like for the first time, the world's eyes were on me. Maybe I didn't cope with it very well. But coming into this one, I had that same anxiety, that same, like, just pacing up and down my hotel room, kind of like a tiger in a zoo, just wanting to fucking chew on something. But I was heading out there. I kind of had to embrace my inner Paul Robinson and just kind of like, my mission was to fight 13,000 people, and I came out on top,
Will Ospreay, Liam Crowley, comicbooks.com. First off, it's an honor and a privilege to watch you ever compete on American television, let alone in person. The two big matches tonight, Okada versus Danielson and you versus Omega. 3 of those 4 guys barely wrestled leading up to Forbidden Door. You know, the show last year, a lot of injuries plagued it. Yet you still competed on Rampage and other promotions. Like I said, it's an honor to watch you wrestle, but why is it important for you to still have these matches leading up to the big show? And then on top of that, you mentioned the frustration with clap crowd wrestling in Japan. Talk to me about the energy you felt tonight here in Toronto.
The energy was spectacular. I can never, like, it just kept doing that, the whole thing. It's just the best drug in the world. You can't, like, take anything that would get that type of high. It's an incredible feeling. Just marvelous as well, just because once again, like, when me and Kenny done that first match, like, the vocal side of Japan just only came back. So, like, I kind of think that threw me a little bit. So, but this time I kind of was like expecting, I don't know, like I'd never want to be egotistical about it by saying I'm expecting a reaction, but like I knew what we created in the Tokyo Dome was special, and to like try and not only live up to that match, but like try and top it. I feel like we've done that today. I feel like completely amazed by it. And my whole thing with performing, not just like in Japan, in England, United States, Canada, France, Italy, Spain, Germany, just anywhere, right? I think the term best in the world is thrown around almost religiously in any type of promotion. I don't allocate myself just to one place. I think to truly be the best in the world, you test yourself in every company's position. You go anywhere and everywhere. And that's how you find and discover new talent. Like I always have a saying of pay it forward. And I feel like getting that, like, especially I'm very passionate about my own country scene, about like the British wrestling scene. They got hit real hard from the pandemic, and I took it upon myself. It's kind of like to try and get it back to how it was. So, and I still don't think the job's done in England yet, but I do feel like my time is coming up, especially like doing all like the independence. Like my body is starting to break down. So I think it is time for me to be a little bit more sensible, and I'll probably will wrap up doing all the independence this year. No, thank you.
I will. Lex Tan from Ringside Heat on Saga 960 AM here in Toronto. And my question is, what do you feel the next echelon of the career that you're building for yourself? What is something that you feel like you want to prove next to the entire world?
I don't know what echelons means. No, I'm not even joking.
Level.
Oh, so the next level. And then what was the other bit about that? I was trying to work out what echelons meant.
Basically, what is the next level you want to get to? And is there anything more that you want to prove to yourself and to the entire world?
Man, it's a difficult one. I normally just take every day as it comes when it comes to wrestling. Like I take every New Japan tour as it comes. I take every opportunity to like wrestle anywhere and everywhere. So I guess the next level for me is just to, I don't know, I want that run. I think like everyone, especially when it comes to New Japan for myself, I want that like run of just like everybody. Do you remember like when there was times where like companies were a little bit on the downside? Like for example, when TNA was going down, you'd always be like, at least they got AJ. Like, do you know what I mean? They would always be like I want to be like that with New Japan. I want it to be like, even if there is like any rocky roads or anything along those lines, especially during that pandemic, it was like, I can't tell you enough. I would not wish that upon anybody at all. But like I did that because I generally love my company. I really do. But I want that run, especially like with everything, how it looks. It is just, I just want to put on the best physical work that I can. And I'm very passionate to do it.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I mean, like, just kind of want to throw this out there as well, because while the conversation is on best in the world, I have taken so much from a man that I completely respect and admire, and I hold him to the highest regards. And in September, he is celebrating his 25th anniversary of being a pro wrestler. And I've just got to say it now. He was my idol growing up. I would love to be in the ring with Naomichi Marufuji if that was possible. And the ball is in Noah's court. I think we can work something out.
Corey Lee from the Wrestling Observer. The injury to your shoulder that happened about a couple months ago, how is that holding up? Obviously, you didn't have any tape on it in this match, and this match was pretty brutal in regards to. And then also you have the G1 coming up, so just wanted to just get an update on your shoulder and just how it's holding up.
I mean, I have a mad deformity there now. There's like a little hole in my chest now. I miss him. I want him back, but it's never going to come back. It was a partial tear of my pectoral tendon, so thankfully no surgery, but it did need a lot of rehab and recover. And then there was an incident literally this last month when I was wrestling Tanahashi. I think it was May. We're still in June. Oh, yeah, so it was 1 month ago. I hit the Stormbreaker and my shoulder came out. I've never felt like that. So there is like a weakness here, but I don't want to present that in these type of matches, especially with Kenny.
So thankfully, like it held together absolutely fine. I feel great. I mean, like obviously, like in terms of like wooziness and like a little bit all over the shop. Like I just went in there and done a 40-minute match. Of course, I'm going to feel like that, but just I can't tell you enough, man. Like that's probably like one of the most happiest moments of my life. Like that's incredible. I've never like felt that before in my entire life. Like literally had like 13,000 people just like hating my guts, and there's like fucking the whole time just like 13,000 plus versus one. Like, did I get in trouble with any of the Canada flag stuff?
I hope not. I hope not. I mean, you were new. Thankfully, you work for New Japan, not for AEW.
To your delight.
But you were amazing. It was an amazing match. You and Kenny was amazing. It was an incredible match, and I felt like it hasn't come up in the questions, but I know it came up in the commentary. But for those of you in the live crowd, I felt like after seeing your match earlier this year at Wrestle Kingdom at the Tokyo Dome, Kenny really took it to you physically and beat the hell out of you around the ring. And I felt like you wanted to take it to him and do that to him tonight.
I wanted to do it in his back garden as well because he did it in mine. And like I know Kenny had that history with Japan, of course he does. But it was like I'm the guy that like when it became like a question of who's getting New Japan out of this shit, like the weight fell on my shoulders and like fucking ran with that thing like a track star. I was going to say like the MF. I got to stop swearing, but like today it was very important, especially when it's Forbidden Door season. It's my favorite season, Like just anything can happen, And the moment you open that door, guess what? Bastard is showing up. Me.
Yeah, Vicky with Sportsnet in Canada. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Canada flag stuff. Canadians are wondering. You did a great job antagonizing the Canadians in the lead up to this match. Was that a spur of the moment, or was that something that you were thinking about the whole time?
I mean, I just saw it, and there was a kid flipping me off. There was like a 12-year-old, and I was just like, "You have terrible parents, young man." I honestly, I caught it in the corner of my eye, and I was just like, "Oh man, I'm the worst." But when there's like trouble around, I love getting involved in it. Like when there's like any type of like you're gonna get in trouble for this, but like there's this small part in my brain that just thinks. It'd be a laugh, wouldn't it? Do it. Grab the Canadian flag and put it between your arse crack. Like, do it. I've done it. Sorry. My bad.
Thank you, Will.
No whackers, mate.
Thank you, Will. Very much.
Oh, good. Oh, wait. You want me to piss off? All right,
no. Is there any? I'll one going. Any takers? Any more for Will? I know it's an incredible match. I don't want to give Will the bums rush. That's
all good. I don't mind.
He's amazing. Incredible.
God bless you.
Bless you.
Will is the only other potential Brit in the room, John Jackson.
Yeah!
From TalkSport. You've talked about being an international star and representing, different places across the world. Wembley's coming up. Is the door going to get pried open maybe? Is Tony going to let you appear and, really give the English fans what they want?
Listen, the date's free. I'm wrestling Shingo the day before. Which is for Rev Pro at the Copper Box. If people wouldn't mind getting their tickets, I want to sell that 6,000 seater out. That'll be wonderful.
What's up, Andy?
You want money for that now? He'd be like, "Oh, some money, please." But man,
Andy's a good guy.
He's a wonderful dude. Just never gets back to anyone's text messages. Get back to me. No, but honestly, I would love to. It is just once again, I don't work here, but nothing would make me feel prouder as an Englishman who has flown the flag for my country, even in the good and bad times, to celebrate it in Wembley Stadium, just like Freddie Mercury, just like Oasis. I would love to just prance down there, skipping along like some dozy twat. I would love that, but it's down to Tony, and I hope we can work something out. It would be incredible to see you guys be a blessing, especially for my country. I love our scene. I love our fan base. And it's just it's so cool. That a grand scale show is going to happen literally 40 minutes from my house. I'm going to be there regardless. I'll come watch. It's just, can't beat it. It's an amazing time to be a wrestling fan. Amazing time to just want to be part of AEW, want to be part of New Japan, just all wrestling in general. It's just booming. And honestly, I'm just looking forward to the future. That all good though? Guys, bless you all. Unless you guys are from Canada, then suck mine. God bless you, Tony.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me, mate. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Will.
You guys did that voluntarily. I wasn't forcing it. I thought that was one of the greatest matches. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. I hope you didn't feel like I pressured you to clap. It was great. Speaking of great champions and great matches, great to see you, Toni Storm.
Yep, love doing these things. Love it. How are we?
Great to see you.
All right. Go on then. What do you want?
Questions for Toni Storm?
Love doing these things. I love finishing work and sitting in a room with a bunch of marks. It's my favorite thing to do. Come on.
Corey Lee with the Wrestling Observer. I noticed that looks like you're wearing your Stardom gear for this show. Was there any type? Was it obviously this is a co-New Japan show. New Japan is affiliated with Stardom. Was that a choice? And then also the fact that earlier today, Julia did mention that she did want to come to America. She had challenged Will Nightingale for Independence Day, but obviously she's a very, very great wrestler, and people are very, very hoping that she does come here, at least to America. And would you like to face her?
So the gear, so the reason why I wore that gear was because it just happened to arrive in time for the show. And Julia, yeah. You want to see me slap the tits off her too? Yeah, come on. Bring Julia. Yeah. It'd be such a huge honor. Is that what you want me to say? That would be just, you want me to mark out for Julia? Oh, well, I'm not going to. I don't care. I know you all like her and you'll think she's, oh, wow. But what do I look like, a fucking mark to these people, Tony? Oh, yeah, it'll be a huge honor. Yeah. Sweet. I can't wait.
Well, you are a former champion in Stardom, and I thought your gear was a cool tribute to the Forbidden Door. And it's second year in a row you've been on the Forbidden Door show, but this year you've come out as a champion and as a two-time champion. I thought it would be good for you to have a chance to address the media.
It wasn't a tribute gear, Tony. It was just arrived in time.
There you go. You got your answer.
Hi, Lex Tan, Mark from Ringside Heat on News Talk 960 AM.
Nice to meet you, Mark.
Thank you. And nice to meet you too. First of all, congratulations on defending your championship again and being successfully retaining it. I just have to ask you, ever since Saraya and Ruby started running with you, you've been having the advantage in your matches for sure, fairly or unfairly. That's not really for me to say, but how does that feel to have them back you up the way they do?
I mean, we're a sisterhood. That's what we do for each other. And it's, because of this backup, because of these friends, they've really given me a lot of confidence to not take any more crap like I used to when I first came to AEW. Remember that? Where I just got completely screwed, had my nose broken by Jamie Hayter, and then it's nice. It's nice to have friends. That's the only way you can survive in this freaking place. Because your girls, man. Your girls. Tell your girls to stop breaking my nose, would you? That's it. Jesus Christ.
Well, you've been a great champion through it all. And
I know. I'm so tough. I had my nose broken. And I still won, just like I said.
Absolutely.
Well, none of one of these girls break my nose. Your hair will be straight after I'm done with you. God. These women. Where do you find them?
Well, to be fair, Willow is a great champion in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And
Hey,
honestly, it was a great hard-hitting match. I think you give as good as you get, champ.
Hey, Willow, I'm not taking anything away from her. Slapped my tits off tonight. Killed me. Look at me. She's great. But, like that, it's look at how tough I am. I'm just so tough. I took on all of that and I still won, just like I said I would. So, yeah, she's great, but she's not as great, is she? She's not on this level yet. Good luck to her.
Lyric Swinton, Women's Wrestling Talk. Question for Toni Storm. Earlier in May, we saw you appear at New Japan Resurgence and get involved in Fred Rosser and Juice Robinson's match. Can we expect for you to appear at more New Japan events? And can we possibly expect to see you and Juice collaborate on screen? Question for Tony Khan. Obviously, Julia challenged Willow Nightingale today, but even though Willow is a New Japan champion, she is an All Elite Wrestling talent. So does this mean that there's possibly a working relationship going forward between AEW and Stardom?
Well, we can take that in whatever order you want, champ. You can go first.
I mean, if Juice needs me to get him out of whatever stupid situation he's got himself into, then I'm just going to have to go, aren't I? Sorry, Tony, but I mean, yeah, it's up to you. I mean, I'll go there. I'll go, but
Well,
sometimes I have to.
I think it's been great. It's great for the partnership, and it's great to see you there. And as for the question, I definitely would love for top wrestlers from Stardom to come here, and we would love to send great wrestlers there also. And that's what the Forbidden Door is all about. And as for Willow and for Julia, I think it's very exciting that the challenge has been put out there for the New Japan Strong Championship. And Willow had a great match for the AEW World Championship tonight. Also, Willow, great win last night in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, and she's still active in that. Of course, we've seen some great matches. Great match, your good friend Ruby on Wednesday has a match against Dr. Britt Baker, the defending champion, on Wednesday Night Dynamite. So
Spoiler alert, she wins, Ruby.
we'll see Wednesday live on TBS. It should be a great match. And speaking of great matches and looking at the Forbidden Door show, I just think it's cool to look at where you were last year. You were the interim champion. We came into this show, and obviously now this year you retain the championship. You're the world champion.
That's right.
You're getting all the credit you
I'm doing
wanted.
so well.
Everything you feel like
I couldn't
you deserve.
be doing better.
It's great.
Let's just talk about how tough I am. I mean, I'm so tough. Look at everything I've had to go through since I've been in AEW, and then just here I am, killing it. Couldn't be doing better. Keep going, keep going. Keep
Well, I
saying
think
nice
it's just great to see. And when you look at the full circle journey where you came from Forbidden Door last year to this year, definitely you've changed a lot, but maybe there's a lesson in it because you've come a long way.
I have come a long way because last year's Forbidden Door, I lost to Thunder Rosa, the most embarrassing day of my life. And then we fast forward to now, not an embarrassing day at all. Very good day. Because I don't take crap anymore.
More for Tony. Hi, Amos Mina with Slam Wrestling. I just wanted to ask you, Tony, you've been asked a few questions already about Julia and Stardom's involvement, potential involvement, if ever, with AEW in the future. But Jamie Hayter, you mentioned her a little bit earlier. You could say that your chapter isn't quite closed with her. It could be a never-ending chapter, in all honesty. You two.
Why? Why a never-ending chapter? I beat her in 3 minutes at Double or Nothing.
But she has a
What
win
is
over
there to
you.
do?
She's
What
beaten
else
you.
is there to do?
Well, it seems like it's pretty even.
Then what? Then why? Why more Jamie Hayter? It's even. Except it took her quite a while to beat me. It took her like 20 minutes to beat me. It took me like 3 minutes to beat her. She was so beat up. She was such a mess. I beat the crap out of her so bad that she could only give her fans, the fans at the door, she could only give them 3 minutes. That's all she had. And then she laid down and I beat her, and that was the end of her. And we haven't seen her since. Oh, yeah. Let's continue this. Let's keep going. What else is there to do? I guess I could break her nose. She deserves it. That's what she did to me. Yeah. Go on then. Book it again if you want to see me break Jamie Hayter's nose.
Okay, last one for Tony.
Hi, Charlie of Wrestle Purist. Congratulations on your title defense today. I just wanted to ask, the Outcasts talked about bringing the title in as one of their main goals. Now that you've achieved that, what's next for your group?
Good question. What is next for our group?
Well, I think, of course, we mentioned Ruby has a great chance against the defending Owen Hart Foundation winner, Dr. Britt Baker, this Wednesday on Dynamite. I think it's a big match with Ruby versus Britt. They both had a great run last year, and I thought it would be great to have a rematch of the finals in the first round. And then, obviously, now you have retained the championship against the New Japan Strong champion. There are great challengers, not only here in AEW, all over the world, and there are a lot of people coming back to AEW, people getting healthy. So I think this week, long list of people that are going to want matches, title shots, eliminators with you. And anytime Saraya is out there, the people can't stand her, frankly. I know
She's
you.
wild.
I know
How
you
can you
love
not
her.
like her? She's pretty much got it all.
I know
But
you like
okay,
her.
fine.
But
Weird.
yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot of exciting things in your future, but I'm really excited to see Ruby versus Dr. Britt Baker this Wednesday on Dynamite for the Outcasts in particular, and people are lining up to challenge the world champion.
Yeah, Britt doesn't stand a chance, does she?
She beat her last year.
Well, that was last year. A lot can change in a year.
Yeah, that's what you showed tonight. Clearly.
That's right.
On that
right.
note, ladies and gentlemen, the AEW Women's World Champion, Toni Storm. That's a real. There you go. Please. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thanks, Topher. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Who wants to fight?
Brian, we'll start right over here.
Hi, Brian. Azim Huck from Element FM. I'm also a musician, so my question is music oriented. We've heard some great AEW themes throughout the years, entrance themes. And of course, tonight you had a great pop for the final countdown. I was wondering if that's a one-off for Forbidden Door, or do you think we'll get to hear it down the road?
I think that's a Tony question because they want $1 zillion per play. So, I didn't even ask for it, to be honest. Tony came up with the idea. I thought it was really cool, and I was a little bit angry right before I went out there, and then I heard Final Countdown play, and it literally just put a smile on my face. Like I said it out there at the end of the show, but I legitimately don't think I've heard that song since I last came out to it in Ring of Honor. So.
It's McCully from Rock 95 in Barrie, Ontario. When you've got you and Okada on paper, dream match, and a blank canvas to paint, how much consideration did you have to put into considering what else was on the card and painting the picture of the whole show? How much different could it have been? How bigger could it have been? Or was there any consideration to what other people were doing on the show before the show got to you guys?
So from an artist perspective, I think you always have to look at the totality of the show and do what you think is in the best interest for the overall show. And so I always take that into account when I'm wrestling. And so yeah, I did that tonight as well.
Corey Lieb with the Wrestling Observer. I noticed something on your arm. How are you feeling? Looks like you injured your arm there in the match. And actually, the other question I was actually going to have before I saw the arm injury, you haven't wrestled as much as we've usually seen you. You had the match at Anarchy in the arena, and then obviously the match tonight with Okada. Is that going to be permanent from now on? That you're going to be, wrestling a little bit more lightly, or, are you going to be going back to a normal full schedule as we go along?
Well, so I was planning on wrestling on Wednesday this week. I don't think that's going to happen because in this match specifically, we think I fractured my right forearm with about 10 minutes left to go. And so, yeah, so it's, but talking to our doctors, and I love the AEW medical staff and trainers. I think it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks for this specific injury. The stuff after Revolution, after the Iron Man match with Max, had a torn labrum and then some compressed vertebrae and all that kind of stuff. It's normal wrestler stuff. I'm fine, but we just thought from a precautionary measure. That's one of the things that I love. I love our medical staff. Like the trainer that I work with, Bryce Reddy, it was quoted in one of the interviews as Bryce Remsburg, who's a referee. And Bryce Reddy, the trainer that I work with, he was like, "What the hell? You're putting over Bryce Remsburg and not me?" And I said, "No, I think they just didn't know who I was talking about." But yeah, we have an incredible training staff. And so I I try to follow their direction.
Hi, John Muse with Wrestling Observer Newsletter. As a longtime fan, this match was something I've been looking forward to for a long time. How about you? How do you feel now that you've had it? Is it what you want? I know you probably have things you want to do differently, but what's this mean to you?
So it's interesting because this is a match I've been looking forward to for a long time. When I was in WWE and Okada was first making his name and doing that series with Tanahashi and all that kind of stuff. And, just having these incredible title runs and incredible matches. And I was like, gosh, I'd love to wrestle that guy. And I just never thought it was possible. Right. I never thought it was possible. And then Tony started up AEW and it actually happened tonight. And it's interesting because is there something I would change about the match tonight? I don't know. One of the things, sometimes when you do things that are really hard, you feel more accomplished doing them. For example, I pretty much knew I had fractured my forearm, and you can stop or you can go. And some of my favorite moments in my career are times when I've chosen to go. And tonight I chose to go, and I don't regret it at all.
Hi, Brian. Joel Pearl with Fightful.com. 5 years ago, speaking of WWE, a lot of people were wondering, were you going to stick around? Were you going to leave and possibly even appear at the first All In show back in 2018? Well, today you faced off against Kazuchika Okada, and that was a match that people were clamoring for a long time, including yourself. Now that you've done it, now that you've gone through Kazuchika Okada, I should say, is there anyone else left on the Bryan Danielson bucket list of opponents?
I mean, so many people that it's unfair to name them all. But to be honest, I kind of want to wrestle Okada again and break his arm. That it seems like fair play, right? Like I love what I do, and I think the worst thing that you can do is you can take it away from me. And even taking it away, like I saw the BCC Elite match tonight, and I saw Ishii beat Wheeler Yuta. One, I was pissed at Wheeler. I'm going to slap him later with my left hand. But then what it really made me want to do is, you know what? I want to fight that guy next. You know what I mean? And so, and now it's going to have to be 6 to 8 weeks if we can get him over here. It's the G1 coming up soon and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, so that puts me in this mindset of, okay, would I rather wrestle Ishii or would I rather wrestle the guy who's put me out for 6 to 8 weeks and just honestly just try to end him? Like there's something very gratifying to that. And especially when people call him the greatest wrestler of a generation, when I think that's very debatable.
Hi, Brian. Amos with Slam Wrestling. I just wanted to ask you again, back to your match with Okada. You just mentioned you'd love to do it again. It seems like this match has this kind of aura to it where it really is the marquee. Of course, it was the marquee tonight, our main event. Seeing that you want to face him again, how would you spice things up, or would you be interested in seeing certain stipulations brought upon future encounters, if ever? I feel like this could be the start of a real trilogy, or if not, more matches between you and Okada.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really worry about those kinds of things, honestly. As far as I just love wrestling, and I love wrestling the best people in the world, and I'm very thankful. I mentioned it out there a little bit after the show, but I think this is a great point to bring up, that how grateful I am that we have New Japan Pro Wrestling as partners, right? Because when you look at the show that we did tonight, and it's incredible, right? Up and down the card, incredible match after incredible match with incredible wrestlers. And when have you seen two companies work together like this in a way that's so selfless, that's absolutely best for the wrestling fans, right? Like that's unbelievable. So, that's just kind of my perspective. I don't look at like, oh, I want to have a trilogy of this or whatever it is, as far as, storytelling or whatever it is. I'll do whatever Tony asked me to do. Right. And I have people that I'd like to wrestle and some payback I'd like to get, but yeah, there's so many great talented wrestlers in New Japan Pro Wrestling that I'd love to wrestle any of them.
Hi, Brian. My name is Lex Tan. I'm from Ringside Heat, News Talk Saga 960 AM. First thing is a personal thing. Thank you for saying years ago, fight for your dreams and your dreams will fight for you. So thank you very much for that. It's something that always will be with me. My question here is that you had an insane ovation here today with, as you mentioned, at the main event after 15 matches that we had here today. So just great wrestling from everybody. How hard was it for you and Okada to follow up Omega and Ospreay, considering the ovation they got?
I didn't want to follow him. Ask Tony. I was like, I don't want to follow these guys. But you have to put a lot of that aside, right? And then what's really interesting. So I was angry a little bit before my match over something, unrelated to wrestling. And then Final Countdown hit and it just brought a smile to my face. And then do you know what was interesting is that as I was out there, last week was Father's Day, right? Last Sunday in the United States, it was Father's Day. And it was weird, this reaction I got internally when the money dropped, because a lot of people think that that's cool, right? They think it's super cool. I come from a relatively poor area, right? And my dad, he never made much money. And this is a place that rains 82 inches a year. The sky is gray, sand is gray, the ocean is gray. And my dad had to work his ass off his entire life and never got to see, he always wanted to see a white sandy beach, and he never got to see it until he passed away. And so I see that, and he comes out and it's like this gaudy entrance where it's dropping money and it's the Rainmaker and all that kind of stuff. And there was something inside of me that was just like, and people think it's cool. You saw a whole arena cheering, and it made me angry because being poor as a kid made me feel less than, right? And so to see people who you may look up to come out, and all of a sudden there was this fire in me, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to kick this guy's fucking ass. And so, yeah, that's, I wasn't thinking at that point, I wasn't thinking about having to follow Kenny and Will or anything like that. I was thinking about, okay, I'm here to do a job, and I'm going to do it as best as I can.
Hey, Brian, Liam Crowley, comicbook.com. When you first came to AEW, there were a lot of goals you set out, and competing for New Japan was one of them. And you've had matches with Minoru Suzuki and now Okada tonight, and these guys are coming to you. We also saw reports that you might want to compete for Defy Wrestling out in Seattle. Are you more interested in these guys coming to you in AEW, or do you want to compete on their turf in promotions like Defy and New Japan over in Japan?
So both, both is what I'm interested in, but my main focus is AEW, right? Like, I love this company. And realistically, I have lofty goals and things, but then you have to realize that, I'm 42. I've been wrestling for 24 years. I've wrestled a pretty hard style. Is it smart for me to do the G1? And I was like, yeah, maybe not. You know what I mean? And so it's like, as much as I would love to wrestle for Defy because it's in Seattle, in the kind of the same area that I'm from, is it worth the risk, right? Because anything can happen on any given night like this, right? So yeah, right now my main focus is doing my best for AEW and making AEW the best place it can be.
It's John Pollock from Post Wrestling. This is a question actually for both of you concerning the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match, assuming that you did see most of the match, Brian. In the match, we see this Tiger Driver 91 that Kenny takes, and he's coming down like right on his head. And I'm just curious your perspective, as you're just mentioning, asking, is this smart? And the expectations are so high now for the audience, especially for a match like that, a match like yourself and Okada, and you're dancing so close to the line that when you see something like that, of how close you're going to, a terrible potential outcome, just how you view something that riskful in a match.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question in the sense of you have to skate that line, right? You have to so for example, I remember when I was in WWE and John Cena tore his pec taking a hip toss, right? And so there are these things. So, and I think this is where I go and I talk to our doctors legitimately before matches. And I say like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this? Can I do this? Right. And they're very frank with me as far as saying like, no, you cannot do that. Yes, we're okay with this, but only under certain circumstances. And I think for the safety of the performers and also for it's the best thing for AEW to do that same kind of thing. As far as like, I saw the, whatever you want to call it, Tiger Driver 98, you know what I mean? I saw that and that kind of stuff does scare me because the injury potential is so great. And I know specifically from like a Kenny Omega, who is just, both him and Will Ospreay are just fantastic. Was it worth it? You know what I mean? Did it actually make the match better, or is it just risking part of their career? And I don't have the answer for that. You know what I mean? Like, we all did things. I did things to get noticed that I wouldn't do today. Right. And so, I mean, you just have to balance those things, you know, and those are two very driven men about wanting to put on the best pro wrestling matches they can. So I don't think it's my responsibility to say who should do what, because I've done some pretty stupid things in my career. But yeah, I think we should be working with our medical staff to approve certain things.
Denise Salcedo, Instinct Culture. So, Bryan, now that you officially stepped into the ring with Okada, how would you describe being in the ring with him? What did you learn from him as a wrestler in comparison to some of the other great matches and battles that you've had as well?
It's really hard to say because, so for example, when I wrestled Lee Moriarty, it's not like anybody was super, I mean, the hardcore wrestling fans were, oh, this will be cool. But it's not like the general audience was like, oh, I can't wait to see Bryan Danielson and Lee Moriarty. And so you have a better sense of how good he is because the crowd's a little quiet at first. It is impossible to know how good Okada is based on tonight because the crowd was, we could have pulled our pants down. And I think people would have at least at first enjoyed it. And then they'd be like, pull your pants up, get back to the wrestling. You know what I mean? And so, so yeah, but obviously being in there and with how hard he hits and all that kind of stuff, I think the world of him and I think he's fantastic.
Thank you very much, Bryan.
Yeah.
Any last questions for Bryan? He's been amazing here. I know it's a historical note, but I thought it was noteworthy that you're the first person to tap out Okada since the 2015 G1. It was Nakamura 8 years ago.
And I did it with a broken arm. So, you know.
With the injury, did that change any of the last 10 minutes? Did that affect anything?
So you are asking me to tell you my secrets. And I am a magician. And if I tell you my secrets, but yes, it did change things.
A couple more. Bryan's on a roll. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, one just quick follow-up question. Liam Crowley, comicbooks.com again. You said when you first joined AEW that you weren't going to do the yes chants. I was at Revolution. Saw the yes chants in the late minutes. We saw them again tonight. Is that a spur of the moment thing, or are you kind of going into matches where you're like, this is where we want to bust it out?
Well, tonight was spur of the moment only because going back to the last question, I was incapable of doing some of the things that I would have liked to do. And so I thought, okay, how do we bring the fans up? Oh, here's an easy solution. And I couldn't do it with one arm. So it was just here we go. You know, the Max match was a choice. It was the one time that I was going to do it. Tonight was because I needed to do something.
It worked.
Yeah.
Kate with Fightful, thank you so much for tonight's match. It was a privilege to watch. We also got to see you and Kenny at Arthur Ashe. We get this dream match as well. Before you guys even lock up, in both of those cases, there's kind of these breathing moments, and you seem so in the moment. You mentioned you kind of had a flurry of emotions, angry beforehand, and then reacting to Okada's entrance. In that specific moment, are you thinking of anything in particular, or are you just taking it in?
So have gotten very good later in my career as far as just feeling everything. And I think, so I don't know. I'll let you guys decide if this is one of the best matches of my career. But I I don't know if it was, or I don't know if it wasn't. But from a feeling perspective, it felt special. And just as I'm talking about it now, you'll see I'm getting goosebumps. And that's it's part of actually my meditative practice as far as like working on experience. Because how many times do we go through life and we're in this moment that, okay, these things are supposed to make us happy, but we don't take the time to actually enjoy them. I love what I do. Love the fact that I just got to go in front of a sold out arena here in Toronto and wrestle one of the greatest wrestlers on the planet. And I love the fact that this fan base knows who Okada is, and they treat it like two of the greatest wrestlers on the planet. And that's something I don't want to take for granted. So one of the things that I really try to do now when I wrestle is enjoy the experience, as far as like, and let whatever feelings come from the reaction of the crowd, from the reaction of my opponent when I get hit hard. Some people don't like getting hit hard. To me, it makes me feel alive. And so yeah, so I try to be in the moment as much as possible.
Hi, Hamza Hug. Question for Bryan. You mentioned that when you were younger, you would take risks that you wouldn't take today. And you also said that you try to toe this line between when you say no or whether you say go. Having had wrestling taken away from you once previously and having had to retire, does that strengthen your resolve to go when the question of potentially saying no comes across?
It's interesting. I think sometimes it strengthens my resolve to say go, but like when I got my last concussion at Anarchy in the Arena last year, it was very much, okay, we are waiting. And AEW was great. Tony was great. You know, that was a hard time for the company because I had gotten hurt. Adam Cole had gotten hurt. Punk had gotten hurt. There were a lot of injuries. I have been in places where they've rushed people back from concussions, and this place is not that. And I'm very grateful to be that. I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm very grateful that our doctors encourage me to be, no, we need to wait until absolutely we know for sure that you're okay.
I got one more question in regard to the injury. When did it actually happen, and how did it happen, basically?
So the unlikeliest of things, him just giving me an elbow drop, and I didn't have my arm in a safe space, and freak accidents like that happen in wrestling all the time. When we say, you know, it's not the Tiger Drivers 98s, although sometimes it is, but it's not. It's usually not those. A lot of times it's something that somebody's done 10 million times and never hurt anybody with it, and then all of a sudden, freak accident happens.
Hey, Brian, John Jackson from TalkSport in the UK. So I'm going to ask the obvious question. I've just checked the calendar. 8 weeks' time, Wembley Stadium, same weekend. You mentioned that you want to wrestle against, you know, the greatest in the world. There are some great British wrestlers on the scene. We've seen two tonight. Are those two? Zack Sabre Jr.
Who else?
Will Ospreay.
Oh, that's right. He's pretty good. Shoot.
So either of those two, you know, if Tony would allow it again, because, you know, they don't work for this company, would they be on your hit list? If we can call it
for
a hit
sure.
list?
I mean, I've wanted to wrestle Zach for a long time. Realistically, I wrestled him. I don't even remember what year it was. Maybe 2008 in front of us in a small venue in front of like 45 people. And he was just a kid, just a skinny kid. Right. And I was really impressed. You know, that's one of those things where you go out there, you don't know what you're going to get. I had just done 2 shows for Bryan Dixon, and then now I'm coming in and doing the show, and I'm like, oh, okay, who am I wrestling? Oh, okay, whatever. You know, we go out there. I was like, oh, this kid is really good, and he's only gotten better. And so, obviously, Zack Sabre Jr. is somebody who I'd love to wrestle. I'd love to wrestle Will Ospreay. He's fantastic. But you know, there's also a ton of AEW people that I'd love to wrestle. One of the things that, you know, we still haven't done, me and Kenny Omega too. We haven't done it. So me and Punk, we had, you know, a couple matches in WWE, but we never had like a big match, right? You know, me and Samoa Joe never had a big match. You know, there's the younger guys. Like I haven't stepped foot in the ring with Darby, right? How great is Darby? How great is Orange Cassidy? And when we just talk about like people who are having just incredible runs, Orange Cassidy with the International Championship is just having this incredible run where week after week after week, he has these just amazing matches. And I was one of the doubters of Orange Cassidy when AEW first started. I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I like this guy. And then I watched him and I watched him and I watched him and I was like, this guy's fantastic. And so, you know, so you bring up me wrestling the British wrestlers. I think a lot of British wrestlers want to get on the show, and a lot of AEW talent want to wrestle British wrestlers. I'm just as happy wrestling the AEW wrestlers because I think they're fantastic too. Oh, another AEW wrestler that I got to wrestle in Ring of Honor years ago, never got to wrestle in WWE and never have gotten to wrestle here is Pac, right? And so it's like, and he's an AEW wrestler and he's fantastic. So I mean, there's all these guys, you know, you can name British wrestlers who don't work here, but you can also name British wrestlers who do work here, or just fantastic AEW wrestlers that I just like to wrestle in on such a huge stage.
Thank you, Brian.
That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the match. And thank you for everything in the match.
Yeah. And then again, I just like to thank you guys all for coming and supporting this venture. I know it's hard being a startup in wrestling, right? And I think Tony's done an incredible job. And here we are with a sold out arena in Toronto, partnering with, you know, one of the best wrestling companies that's ever existed in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I think we're getting there in this 3+ years that we've started. If you look at the pay-per-views that AEW has done from the time they started until tonight, try to name another company that's had a run of pay-per-views like this. But I just want to thank all you guys because a lot of you guys have supported this company from the very beginning, and I greatly appreciate that. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, it's McCully from Rock 95 and Barry. I have two questions from the Canadian standpoint. We're just getting rolling with this Canadian run with the Owen Hart tournament as its centerpiece. Some would say, why then is there no Canadians in the tournaments? But is that a conscious effort not to from a storyline perspective, distract from outcomes, etc.? What was the thinking going behind who's in those tournaments?
Well, it's a very fitting question. I think it was very similar to what Brian just said. We have such a great roster, and I think across the men and the women in the tournament, there's so many great wrestlers in AEW. So when you look at the bracket, I was trying to create matchups that I thought were with a lot of the top wrestlers in AEW across the men's and women's in both tournaments. So whether you look at tonight, obviously CM Punk versus Kojima, that's a match I was really excited about. It's two of the great decorated world champions in wrestling. There aren't a lot of people that have the credentials of them. And in fact, I don't think there's anybody that has the exact credentials of these two world champions. When you look at Kojima, who's the only person to be the Triple Crown champion and the IWGP heavyweight champion at the same time. And he's also been GHC champion in Noah. And then you have, of course, CM Punk, who's been the Ring of Honor world champion, multiple time AEW world champion, the WWE world champion, even the ECW world champion. CM Punk's held pretty much every title across American and domestic pro wrestling and here in North America. And I believe Kojima is one of the greatest names, and it was a match I personally really believed in. So I really was excited about it. I thought it was a great match, and it really delivered. So in particular, that match for the Owen tonight, but also the last week in the women's division, you've seen 3 great matches this weekend with Sky Blue in her hometown picking up the win over Anna Jay, and then Willow Nightingale last night here getting a great win against Nyla in the tournament. And of course, Willow then had a great match tonight for the World Championship of AEW, and Willow's been a great champion for New Japan right now. And then we had a great match tonight with Athena, the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion, taking on young Billy Starks. I thought that was a great match on the 0 hour. And we still have the last year's final to come in the first round with Dr. Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho. So a loaded bracket there on the women's side. Then we're coming up on this big show Thursday night. We're taping here in Hamilton. It's going to be on Saturday night on TNT. It's a huge Collision. We've been trying to get off to a huge start with Collision. We wanted big matches. So just from this Owen Hart Foundation tournament, we have Samoa Joe versus Roderick Strong, which is a match I felt very strongly about. 2 top stars in AEW, the exact same spirit as what Bryan was just saying, like trying to use the strength of the roster and build matches people would really want to see all over the world on TV and here in Canada. And I really believe Samoa Joe versus Roderick Strong this week, Saturday night on Collision, is one of those kinds of matches. And I thought it was something that people would want to come Thursday night live to see in Hamilton. And then Dustin Rhodes and Hobbs. And also, of course, Juice and Starks after the great 8-man tag, which I thought last night was an amazing match. Speaking of CM Punk and the great matches, I thought that last night, the 8-man tag main event on Collision was tremendous. So having that, I thought made a lot of sense next week, coming off that and the rivalry between Jay and Juice against Ricky Starks. It's been going on for a long time. So there's a lot of matches I thought were really important, and that's why those matches were the ones I put in the bracket. So I really kind of was going off that same philosophy of Bryan. Like, I want to use the best people in AEW and make the best matches for the fans all over the world and also for the people in the arenas. And obviously, we want to use a lot of our great Canadian stars here too, and have been featuring a lot of Canadian stars, including tonight here on the pay-per-view, where we had a lot of big names. But in the Owen, I was specifically looking for some of those matches I just named.
So for some of the independent, non-signed talent, they've got a unique experience. We've got Collision, the pay-per-view here in Toronto, 2 shows in Hamilton. So for Ontario, unsigned talent, lots of unique opportunity to kind of showcase their stuff, and we're seeing some of that. Do you have an eye on anybody not signed that you want to name drop, or is that something someone else looks after and reports back to you?
No, I do a lot of that. I've been running that process myself. I get people recommended to me, and a lot of times that's how people end up on Dark, is somebody from a recommendation, and then sometimes that's the first time I see people. But I also book a lot of people for Dark, and then the developmental system, whether it's Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, or Ring of Honor, I do all the paperwork. I book all the matches. So everybody who's in every match, I know who they are. I put them in the match, and I decide who goes out, and who goes out who goes out first, who goes out second. And then they go out, they wrestle each other. And I try to make good matches. Styles make fights. And I think tonight was great matchmaking. Tonight was a little different. And of course, Forbidden Door is a little different because we do work side by side with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but the production team and overall, the point man is me. And I think from the standpoint of the developmental, so I'm looking to bring a lot of people in. I get recommended a lot of names when we go to different places. We were in Chicago last week, so used somebody like Gringo Loco that's local there, but sometimes I would fly in a Gringo Loco because he's tremendous. There are people here in Ontario that I would use that are local. Absolutely. It's a great opportunity for some of these people that have been wrestling, as it is everywhere where we do, our shows, whether we bring in talent, enhancement talent, frankly, sometimes, but a lot of times also I give people opportunities in these kinds of matches and introduce new talent that way. It's a different developmental system than it used to be. I was a lot more hands-on in some ways because of Daly's place. You couldn't be more hands-on. Like, I lived my life on top of these people. We lived in a bubble together. And that's where acts like the Acclaim, 2 guys that were, frankly, again, enhancement wrestlers and are now one of the most popular tag teams in the entire world. And they've, together with Billy, they're one of the most popular trios in the world. And all of that, it started with Max and Anthony together. I saw them and separately, and I wanted to put them together, and I brought them into my Daly's Place office, and they worked matches originally in the Daly's Place Dark. And then their chemistry with Billy, really a lot of that got going then through Elevation, because on the road before Dynamite got started, I would book the 4 best tag teams in 8-man tags before the show started that I wasn't using on Dynamite. And a lot of times it would be the Gun Club and the Acclaimed against 2 tag teams. And that's where the chemistry with the Guns and the Acclaimed and Billy and the Acclaimed got started. So, and now in Ring of Honor, I love bringing in talent local and giving them opportunities. When we were doing shows in Florida for Ring of Honor, I've done that, or whether we're doing it on the road, that's a great opportunity because now Ring of Honor, it's not developmental for AEW by any means, but it is a place where I can bring people in off TV to some extent and give them matches, because in the streaming format, I have a lot of flexibility. I can put together totally different kinds of shows. That's why I felt so comfortable doing Collision, because I think when people saw Ring of Honor and they're like, wow, this is a lot different. There are things that I wouldn't necessarily see on AEW. Like, first of all, no commercials, right? And then some of the talent I feature, I give matches in some cases, maybe a different amount of time, or showcase some matches more than I would in other places. But the level of the champions and the championships, I think, is as good as anywhere in wrestling. I mean, Ring of Honor with a group of champions like Claudio, Samoa Joe, Athena, Shibata-san, and the Mogul Embassy. It's a great group of champions we have there. And I believe really like the developmental system has changed, but it's transformed over time. And now I think going on the road to different places, we do try to bring in independent talent, but I also go out and let a lot of the talent here go out and work independent matches. So that also gives a lot of people an opportunity to go find people like, oh, I had a great match with this person on the road. You should bring them in and give them a chance. And that's how we found a lot of different people here. Wheeler Yuta is a great example of that. Yeah, that's my long-winded answer to it. But I think it's an important question because developing wrestlers for the future is like one of the most important things a company could do. Thanks.
Hey, TK, James Jordan of Wide World of Wrestling. I just got a two-parter for you here. I spoke with Sean Spears last week on my show about the possibility of going somewhere like out east, like Montreal. What are in the cards for that? And also, have you played Fight Forever by chance? And if so, what's your favorite mode in that game, or what are you looking forward to most to play?
Well, it's a great question. I think for Fight Forever, the ladder matches, we've had great ladder matches in AEW, and certainly ladder matches in Fight Forever are going to be great. And we have a lot of great wrestlers that are in there, and also a lot of great wrestlers people will be able to download. So I have enjoyed playing a bit of Fight Forever, but I can't wait to, play a bit more. I don't have a lot of free time, but at least now it's the off season for both the Premier League and the NFL, but we have a lot of work to do in the transfer window for the Premier League TalkSport. So it's a busy time for us. And also the Fulham US Tour is starting, which is pretty cool because the Fulham US Tour, by the way, coincides with the Collision dates, both running the East Coast loop. So that's nice. And so I'm very excited about Fight Forever. Like I said, really enjoyed playing a little bit of the ladder match mode. Yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. It's a great time for us. We're very excited about this summer. So many cool things happening in AEW with, of course, tonight's event, the launch of Collision, and now Fight Forever. The release is imminent, and building up to the biggest event in the history of our company and really historic event in wrestling and AEW All In, where a lot of these questions have been about. So very excited about Fight Forever, and I think the timing is really good for us. Feels like we have a lot of good momentum right now. Is there anything else about that you wanted to ask?
Is there a chance that you guys will go up to Montreal?
Sorry, that was the other part of your question. I know it was a two-part. And so I think that would be great. I'm very open to that. We have a lot of events here in the coming weeks in Canada, but obviously Montreal is a great wrestling market with a ton of history, and I would love to do shows in Montreal, and I think it would make a lot of sense to do shows in Montreal, and we want to keep coming to Canada. It's been great support for us on TV. We've just done some of our best ratings ever in Canada, and that's pretty exciting for us. And also now to have this event, this is one of the top 3 live gates in the history of wrestling in Canada. And with the conversion, now we've just surpassed our best live gate ever. I think this is our best gate in the history of the company. So it was like over $1.2 million with the conversion, I believe. So it's very exciting. And, big milestone. And now we have another international show that's going to be even higher than that, multiple times higher, honestly. And the biggest thing in the history of the company. But I think what it has shown is the international growth of the company has been massive. We've seen some new TV milestones recently that we've hit in both Canada and the UK that have been great. The launch of Collision, I think, is going to be great, and getting that now going on TV here is important. And also the live events we're doing in Canada definitely support, I think, the great crowd we had tonight and last night in Toronto shows we got a great market here, and Montreal is certainly one of the best wrestling markets in Canada and a really historic, great wrestling market, certainly. Thanks, man.
Hi, Tony. Liam Crowley, comicbook.com. Again, two-parter question. I apologize. Do we have a health update on Kenny Omega tonight?
I cannot update immediately. I think, we're all hoping for the best, but I think Kenny will hopefully be okay. I know it was a really hard-hitting wrestling match. Absolutely. Took a toll, but I think thankfully he's okay, and he was able to leave the ring with help, but largely under his own power. But it was a scary match, and I think it's good people are asking questions about it because they beat the hell out of each other. Obviously, Will came out of it beat up too. And I think both men have a lot to be proud of, though, because it was one of the best matches I've ever seen. And I'm very grateful to Kenny for what he did tonight for the company.
Good to know. Hoping for the best. Now a bigger picture question. You have 3 weekly TV shows going on. Rampage has its own distinct vibe with the logo. Collision, very reminiscent of Nitro. Dynamite still just kind of has the same font as the AEW logo. Can we expect any sort of rebrand in terms of logos for Dynamite in the near future?
Well, it's a great question. I think Dynamite very much as an identity as a show. These are the things that really are great questions, and it's a great insight. You know, I'll have to think about that a little bit more. We've done things, changed some of the patterns and logos of Dynamite, but I've also seen people saying they loved the original and they loved the 2019 look, and there's nothing wrong with that either. There were great things about the show then. There's great things about the show now. I think using that look would be cool too. In fact, honestly, when people said they wanted the 2019 shooting rainbow powder look back, I was like, well, you know, I love that look too. So never say never. But that's a good thought too, what you're saying about maybe some different branding for Dynamite, specifically the font. That's an interesting thought for sure. You know, I'll have to think about that. In doing, like you said, in doing 4 different wrestling shows a week and managing a massive roster and trying to do it at every level, whether it's the main event matches or people you're trying to build for the future and everything in between. I believe the wrestling, sometimes you do lose the forest for the trees or the trees for the forest. And then sometimes those things on production, that's a great thought. So yeah, I'll think about that for sure. Anything else? Thanks, Liam. Sure.
Hi, Tony. Lex Tan from Ringside Heat, News Talk Saga 960 AM. So again, congratulations on an amazing show, an amazing weekend of shows here in Toronto. And thank you very much for doubling down on Canada. I'm sure that everybody here, the wrestling fans, are just thankful for that, honestly. So I would like to ask you, what is your biggest victory and success this weekend? I know it's very preliminary right now, but what is your biggest victory and success this weekend? What lessons have you learned from the first Forbidden Door leading up to today?
Well, I think breaking our biggest gate in the history of the company was a huge milestone. And so that when we walked in the door, that was pretty exciting. And having one of the 3 biggest live gates in the history of Canada, that was a cool historical milestone. We were over $1.2 million, which I thought was very cool. And I think we've broke the Double or Nothing record from last year, and last year Forbidden Door, I think we're both in that ballpark, but I think last year was also over $1.2 million, and we did a little bit more than that this year. So I thought that was pretty cool. And to be in the historical echelon of the all-time top shows, I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And the crowd was so strong last night, and we even bigger tonight. And the energy felt so good from the start of the show up and down. I thought it was one of our best nights. The energy of the crowd helped, and the wrestlers were amazing. The matches were amazing. I thought both companies brought their very best. And so I've really was very proud. Some of the injuries were unfortunate, but everybody, I believe, long-term is going to be okay, where it won't affect like long-term quality of life. It might affect like when people get back in the ring next, but I believe everybody hopefully will be okay from this. And it was one of the best wrestling shows I've ever been a part of. So I'm very proud. It did more buys than last year's show. It's up from Forbidden Door last year. I think it's up from Double or Nothing, which was a very good number. And so we were up from our last show and up from last year's show. So really strong domestic and international buys, looking really good. So really, really proud of that. Last year's Forbidden Door was a massive success for both companies. And I think this year also massive success. So I'm really proud of that. And I think going into All In, which is one of the biggest shows in the history of the sport, with the kind of momentum we've got in recent weeks from this amazing pay-per-view tonight, the debut of Collision, these last 2 episodes have been great. And I think we can keep doing great episodes there. There have been some of our best episodes of Dynamite in recent weeks, a few really strong episodes over the last several weeks. And I really believe we can keep it going through the summer. Like I said, with the launch of Fight Forever, it's by design. We have a lot of things happening internationally and domestically. It's a great time for the company. So, yeah, I'm proud of a lot of things. Thanks for asking. You give me a chance to talk about all the great things happening in AEW. Appreciate it. Is there anything else I can answer for you while you're here?
Well, the second part was about lessons that you learned. That's all.
Great. Okay. That's a great question. Like Brian said, some things are like freak accident things that you can't control. I wish, you know, nobody got hurt coming out of the matches and everybody would be okay. And it would, but it's a hard hitting sport, and going into it, that's a big part of it. So, you can't really beat yourself up about that. I was really proud of the show. I thought it's one of the best things we've ever done. Top to bottom, I just thought it was a great card. I really enjoyed MJF versus Tanahashi as the opening match. I thought Punk versus, I mean, I can break the whole card down, but I think it was great. Punk Kojima was tremendous and really a great match. And the crowd was tremendous for that match. And I really thought they brought it. And I thought the 4-way match for the International Championship was great. Orange Cassidy, like Brian said, he's on a great roll. Shibata 1 year ago arrived here, and it was a great moment at last year's Forbidden Door. And then again, full circle moments like we talked about with Toni Storm and where she's come from last year's show. Look at Orange Cassidy and Shibata, now both great champions in wrestling, but they were fighting it out for that international title. They got established last year. Look how far that title's risen in the world of wrestling. And then to have Zack Sabre Jr. back at Forbidden Door fighting for that title, and Daniel Garcia, whose story, whether I'm in Huntsville, Alabama, or Toronto, Ontario, at a house show or one of the great pay-per-views, people tell him he's a wrestler. And I get that chant everywhere he goes, and people care about that story and they believe in him. And so you had 3 great champions plus somebody the crowd really believes in. So I thought that match really connected and was special. And then Jungle Boy and Sonata had an excellent match. Jungle Boy this weekend had a couple really excellent matches with the stars in New Japan, and is at a couple great world title matches just in the past month. And then look what happened after the match. I mean, that's clearly taken an emotional toll, but it was a great moment, I thought, with Jungle Boy and Hook. Obviously, really gets people going, and I think the crowd really bet on that and got very excited and interested about that, and they really like Hook. Hook's a very popular wrestler, and so that was, I thought, great. What an awesome 10-man tag. What a great match with the Elite and Eddie Kingston and Tomohiro Ishii, who was amazing, against the BCC with Takeshita and Shota. And that's the kind of match Forbidden Door is all about. And that rivalry has been such a huge part of AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage and our shows as we've launched this company. Really from day one, Moxley against Kenny has been a big part of the show. Moxley against the Elite. And then we talked about in that match, when we got back the fans, we did Moxley and the Eddie against the Young Bucks on Double or Nothing 21. And then you saw Eddie taking the bullet from that same finish that put Mox out at Double or Nothing 21, which I thought was a cool callback. And that was actually the first pay-per-view in wrestling with all the fans back in North America. And so a lot of cool moments, whether they were calling back to last year's Forbidden Door or the beginning of AEW, just in that first half of the show. And then whether it was Tony and Willow, again, the great match, and that's what AEW versus New Japan's all about. And of course you had the incredible, I mean, we could talk for hours and hours about Kenny and Will, again, like you asked about, and what I'm proud of. I mean, that's one of the all-time great wrestling matches. And again, that's what this Forbidden Door is all about. Last year, Will had one of the great matches against Orange Cassidy for the US title. And now it's, look where we've come with Orange Cassidy. Look where now Will has come, and look at Will and Kenny. And I thought their match at the Tokyo Dome was amazing. And people wondered, how can you top that? How can you go to another level after the great match at Wrestle Kingdom at the Tokyo Dome? But they've somehow managed to have that great match and do it. And I thought that was just phenomenal. And then, to have Sting and Darby, to have Chris Jericho and Suzuki and Sammy, last year they won the match together. This year, added something different. Naito, of course, has a lot of history with Chris Jericho, the Intercontinental title. And I thought that was a cool thing. Last night at Collision, the crowd reacted so positively to Naito. And I thought that was a very cool moment. And of course, very excited to have those guys wrestling again in Hamilton on Wednesday with Jericho and Sammy versus Sting and Darby. And then, of course, the main event, we talked a lot about it. It was tremendous. So Bryan Danielson and Okada, it was a dream match. The crowd was into everything from the very beginning. And it was really cool because, like Brian said, I think before they even locked up, it had that kind of energy where you knew this was something the crowd had always wanted to see. And I know I was so happy myself as soon as Final Countdown hit. The reaction was amazing. And I think, even Brian, who was ready to go out and fight, it even put a smile on his face. So I thought that was a good sign. And overall, it's been one of the really, really great, I think, weeks for the company. The launch of Collision has been so positively received. Hopefully last night's show did well, but the debut episode did really, really well. And that's really, really good for the company. And I think that's awesome too. So that is another big win for us. Thanks. Hey, John.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
How are you doing? Quick question.
Yeah.
Actually, it's quick but 4 parts. Adam Cole. First, how's he doing? Most important. Then when do you expect him back? When did you find out? And when can we get Tom Lawler in there with him?
Well, it's a great question. I was sorry that they weren't able to have the match. It's just terrible. Adam Cole came sick today, and we had to send him home. We didn't want to get everybody else sick. And it's just, you know, especially post lockdown, I think the measures are very careful. He's a very tough guy and he would love to fight, but he came in with a fever. And I think he's got what I think is a flu, and he's probably, I think he's going to be okay. I hope he's going to be okay. But you know, in this case, you just got to be safe. And so he should be okay, I hope. And look forward to Adam Cole and MJF and a number of other great pairings that we'll put together competing in the tag team tournament when he's better, but he wasn't cleared for tonight. So when Tom Lawler's available and not doing New Japan, I still think it'd be a great match. I wanted to give Tom Lawler a match still on the show. So I did give Tom Lawler a spot. He went out and took out his anger on Serpentico, and that was a nice match. And I wanted to do something for Tom. And I know he enjoyed getting out to wrestle for the fans, but he did want to go out there and have a good match with Adam Cole. So I'll keep that in mind. I like Tom a lot, and he's both a great commentator and a great wrestler and a great personality. So no, thank you for asking. But you know, Cole, he means a lot to the company. So it would have been great to have him participating tonight. I was really proud that we were able to have, like I said, the other 9 matches really delivered to where I felt like the pay-per-view delivered one of our best shows ever. It would have been great to have that 10th match though.
Hi, Brandon Thurston, WrestleNomics. One, can you give us any update on if All In will be broadcast, whether it's on TV or streaming? And secondly, usually the winners of the matches participate in the press conference. Punk won his match, but he's not with us here. I was wondering if is that a conscious decision to give him the night off of doing a presser?
Well, the match was earlier in the card, and to be honest, I think that we did use a lot of people that won the matches. He's great in these, and he's been doing a lot of media, so he would have been great in this. I would be happy to do a press conference with him, and he's been doing a lot of great media this week to build up the shows. So no, I mean, I thought he had a great match tonight, and he's been a really big couple weeks having him back. It's been very positive influence for the company, and I thought he had a great match with Kojima. Was a wrestling fan. It was something I really wanted to see, and I was really glad he was willing to go out and have a great match in the Owen Hart tournament with Kojima after he had the big match last night. So, you know, it's the first time he's gone out and wrestled 2 back-to-back matches like that 2 nights in a row in a long time. And I really felt like he delivered in a big way. So, yeah, he would have been great. And I think he's been doing a lot of media, and I'm sure we'll get him out doing more media this week to promote the shows. So, no, I'd be very happy to have that. And, you know, he's a big part of what's happening in AEW right now.
And All In, is there any update you give on
Sure.
All
Yeah,
In?
I'm sorry. It was 2-part. Yep. First part of your question. And I am not ready to give an update on that exactly yet because of some issues around the international broadcast and the timing. Very excited about All In and All Out. Everyone's going to be able to watch them both. And I will make it clear the details, the timing and everything and the availability soon. But I'm very excited about both events, and great to be in 2 of my hometowns back-to-back weekends with All In and All Out. And very cool that we get to celebrate. For me personally, I have Fulham, Andy from Rev Pro, who Will was saying isn't answering his text message, which, by the way, Andy, you should be answering Will Ospreay's text messages. Jeez. There's some people you don't have to answer their text messages. He's one of them. So, but I get it. It's a hard job. And if you got hundreds of messages like me, I'm just kidding. But Andy's a big Arsenal supporter. And Fulham plays Arsenal on my mom's birthday. And that's the 26th. And then the 27th is All In. So it's going to be really cool. I don't have all the broadcast information, but it's going to be one of the best weekends. And then to go to Chicago and be able to offer All Out. And I believe now everyone knows the location. It's very cool. We have a great history of doing the show in the Northwest suburbs. I still really value everything at the Now Arena, but very excited to bring All Out to the United Center, which has been a great building for us. It was a great building for the debut of Collision, which, again, speaking of my family, I had my dad there for the premiere of Collision, which is really cool. I got to do that Father's Day weekend and spend it there with my family, which was really nice. And also Jason Sarlanis came, and have the president of TBS and TNT at the show for the first time ever. It was a big deal. And Jason is more knowledgeable of wrestling than a lot of other TV executives because of the experience he has in the TV business. But to have a show like Collision that was in part because the head of the studio had a lot of confidence and wanted more AEW, and a show that David Zaslav gave us a 2-hour slot, and Jason Sarlanis worked side by side with me to program Collision, develop it, and to have him there to see the launch of it. And for Jason to be really happy and go tell Mr. Zaslav that we did really well, and then to have a really good rating, that was a huge win. And then to have the pay-per-view be up year over year is a huge win. So we're on a really good streak. So it's good timing going into All In and All Out. I'm really excited about the events. I don't have the exact details that to reveal to everybody yet, but I promise everyone's going to be able to watch them. Thanks.
Hey, Kevin Mickey with Sportsnet in Canada. Just wondering, when you landed on Toronto as a host city for Forbidden Door as the second installment of it, what were your expectations for the city, for the crowd, and did it live up to your expectations?
It was exactly what I expected. I had the highest of expectations. This is one of my favorite wrestling cities. The top 3 gates in the history of wrestling in this city. I was at 2 of the top 3. I actually spring break road tripped up here for WrestleMania 18. And I'm a big wrestling fan, and I love coming to the best cities, the best markets. So whether it was going to see wrestling in the ECW arena in Philadelphia when I was a kid, or taking my spring break to Toronto, going to shows in Chicago, New York, it was really important to me to see shows in the best markets. And then to see New Japan when they made their debut in LA and Long Beach, that was cool for me. So all over wrestling. And then Will, I've spent a lot of time with Will even before AEW in England, because I lived in England and I hung out with Will in London. And to see how far Will's come, and Zack Sabre too, literally, and Pac, Ben, it's amazing how the British wrestling scene is, like, because of the work of Will and people like Will, is getting back to where it was before they were locked down for so long. But they have had a great scene for a long time, and I'm really excited now AEW's going to come over and be a part of it. But yeah, when I came to Toronto, I was expecting one of the best wrestling cities in the world, and they delivered it. And they showed why this is so great here. And I had high expectations, and I feel like if anything, they exceeded it. But I don't want to even say that, because I expected it to be great, and it was great. Thanks. And I'm excited to do more here. Obviously we've got shows nearby in the market in Hamilton this week, Wednesday and Thursday. I think there's going to be really big matches with big stars on those shows. But this is a really big market for us going forward. It was a really success. Obviously being the biggest gate in the history of the company, we were very happy with it.
John Pollock from Post Wrestling. Earlier this week, when Punk appeared on Dynamite in Chicago, he did drop in the line that he's a Collision guy. He's not even supposed to be here. With the advertising, is that where you have Punk earmarked for now to be Collision exclusive? Was this past Wednesday, because of the Chicago factor, a special occasion, or have you left it open to?
It made so much sense with the show being in Chicago for CM Punk to make an appearance on Dynamite. He's been featured on Collision, and I think we have stars that have been featured regularly on the shows, but you never know who's going to show up on different shows. The spontaneity that was very cool. Obviously, the show did very well. The rating was up significantly this week. It did really well, and I thought having that early in the show was something to show people this is going to be an exciting night. There was a lot of cool stuff on the show, and as we approach Forbidden Door, of course, CM Punk's been big on Collision, but I also wanted to bring him back to Dynamite in front of the Chicago crowd and show the fans that, first of all, like I've said, there's no hard roster split. So that's why he came and he made the reference, which was great. And it was a cool moment, I thought. Got people talking, and you never know where you're going to see him. So like he said, he's been featured on Collision. Is he, supposed to be here? Who knows? But it was a great segment, and Collision did a great number leading into that. And then Dynamite did a great number for that. We don't know all the numbers for Collision last night yet, but hopefully that did really well. And it was great to have CM Punk then back tonight. So I thought it was very cool. And obviously being in Chicago, it made a ton of sense.
Hi, Tony. Azim Huck from Toronto. I was here last time at Coca-Cola Coliseum when AEW brought that great event, Dynamite and Rampage. And now, of course, for Collision and Forbidden Door. I was wondering, so, we see these venues getting bigger and bigger. We do have a 60,000 plus venue in the Rogers Center. I was wondering if there's any foreseeable plans coming back to Toronto, perhaps for even a grander scale event, such as how you're going to Wembley. As you mentioned, there's 2 WrestleManias here in Toronto, and it's a great wrestling city, as you know. So I was wondering, is there any foreseeable plans coming back to Toronto?
Yeah, absolutely. I think coming back to Toronto, this venue, first of all, I want to thank the Scotiabank Arena. The last 2 nights have been exceptional. This is a dream booking for us. And so having this venue is amazing. And the Rogers Center, of course, like I said, I've been there for wrestling. It's electric. This is electric. The city of Toronto is electric. It's something, sure, I'd consider, but absolutely, I want to come back here too, because tonight was one of the greatest nights I've had working in wrestling, in promoting and matchmaking in my entire life. And it was a dream come true to be here. So I loved it. And I've come here before as a fan. So it was really cool to be in Scotiabank to see wrestling that we were promoting. It was very awesome.
We'll take a few more.
Hi, Tony. It's Dan Chen from Q107. Congratulations on a fantastic Forbidden Door event. And today's event was 5 hours long. And based on today's gate, as you mentioned, and the reaction from the crowd, the appetite is certainly here. So how do you see this brand growing moving forward? And is there a conscious decision by you to kind of keep the less is more formula so that the brand doesn't get, stale?
Yes. And have you noticed I've been doing typically shorter pre-shows, but tonight, because we were trying to feature all the top stars of AEW and top stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and there's people from New Japan, it's a promotional priority for them to feature. So in putting the cards together, I want to work those people in because it's a partnership. So tonight I did a little bit longer of a pre-show because normally all the shows have been under 4 hours, bell to bell, including tonight for the main pay-per-view card. All the years of AEW, there's only one show that has ever run over a 3 hour, 58 minute and 30-second length. 3:58:30 is a hard time. I've never even come close to bumping up against it and having a problem with getting out where it would have been an issue. The only time we ran long was on purpose. It was intentional. It was booked that way because I booked 12 matches on Double or Nothing 22 because we were up against the Heat Celtics Game 7. And it was also very successful strategy. That's one of the biggest pay-per-views in the history of the company. It was a great show. The final 3 matches were awesome. And I held really cool stuff back for the end, knowing, okay, it's Las Vegas. We're on the West Coast. The crowd's going to be really hot, just like we had a great hot crowd tonight. But there it was a little different because it was 3 hours earlier on the time zones. So knowing we're a little bit early in the night, these people are just getting warmed up. I had a longer card, and that was the only time we've ever run past 11:59 Eastern. And the only time we've ever gone past midnight Eastern time was that. So they're always under 4 hours with the main card, but the pre-show was a little bit more than we would normally do tonight. So tonight was, to your point, it was like 4 hours and 58 minutes by design because I wanted to feature a lot of great stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling that people hadn't necessarily seen. We featured people from New Japan, AEW, even Ring of Honor. I think there were people that hadn't seen Stu lately because he's mostly been wrestling in Ring of Honor. I know there were some fans that hadn't been watching Ring of Honor that learned about what's been going on with Stu, the Righteous, and the Dark Order that way. I think that's great. That was by design. And I wanted to show that to people and give people incentive. There's great stories and matches happening in Ring of Honor every week. Athena, Kiera Hogan had a great Chicago street fight. I thought Samoa Joe and Matt Sydal tore the house down for the TV title, and that's just in the last couple weeks. And the big match is coming up this Thursday with some of the stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling. We saw LIJ picking up a great win tonight. They're wrestling for the World Ring of Honor 6-man championships this week on ROH on Thursday. So I wanted to highlight that. So it was a little bit longer of a card, but Forbidden Door is a little different. You have to remember, when we're working with New Japan Pro Wrestling, they also have done long shows. Wrestle Kingdom can be a very long night of wrestling. So I don't feel like the people that would want to watch Forbidden Door are necessarily adverse to that. But I also always keep the main pay-per-view card with that one very successful exception in Las Vegas last year of under 3:59. Thanks.
Okay, we'll do 2 more. One on John's end.
Hi, Tony. Joel Pearl with Fightful.com. How you doing? 5 days ago, part of Europe's music publishing catalog was acquired by Primary Wave Music. We kind of touched on it earlier with Bryan Danielson. He kind of punted the question to you. Did that deal play a role in the acquisition of Final Countdown for tonight and potentially moving forward? And second part question, the Guns are on a tear to get you to bring back Many Men. They have a retweet count. They have hit it. Will you do it?
Well, okay. I'm really glad you asked me about that because I didn't address it earlier. Brian was on a roll, but I didn't get into the details of the song. So like he said, it's a very expensive song, Final Countdown. I had been working on it for a while leading into the pay-per-view because I believed it would be a great moment and it would give the match something special, that a match people have always wanted to see. Okada's got this amazing entrance, and I love Bryan's Born for Greatness, and I think it's the song, whether it's the classical version or the Born for Greatness version, is a song that people associate with Bryan, but Final Countdown's always been associated with Bryan, and I just thought it was a cherry on top of this cake that everybody has been wanting a piece of for a long time, that is Okada versus Danielson. So I was very excited about Final Countdown, but it's also the kind of thing that I've been only able to get on a one-show contract, and it was a very expensive one night, and it was as expensive as a wrestler's contract, but it was worth it, and I thought it added to the show, and it was great for the presentation, but it was not inexpensive at all. It was very expensive. And then with Many Men, also I only used it for one time, but we have the rights in perpetuity. When people go back and watch that great FTR versus Guns World Tag Team Championship match from Dynamite, they'll always have Many Men. When we do feature that long-term in a streaming library, that'll be available to people in perpetuity. Just like tonight, that performance of Final Countdown will be available in perpetuity. But as for future performances, I have to be able to get a good deal. So that was for tonight. Would I be able to get it one more time? I think so. But as for Many Men, I'm not sure about that. I'd have to go back to them again. We did a one-time deal. Final Countdown, though, before that acquisition, we'd actually been working on it, but I was grateful that even with the acquisition, they supported it and we were able to get it done because I think it was great for the fans. Hopefully it'll be great for the band and the song and the publishers.
Without giving a number or anything, did it change financially how much they were willing to ask for with this acquisition, with this changing hands?
Well, I think we were already pretty far along with it when the acquisition happened because I'd been working on this longer than 5 days ago. Like, so yeah, it'd been something we'd put together a while back. So thankfully, you know, we already had this in motion, but they were also, I think, supportive of it, and it's going to be good for them and everyone involved with the song. And it was great for Bryan and Okada, and people were already so up for the match, so excited, and the energy was so amazing. And I thought, is there anything you can do to add to this? And certainly on a night like tonight, where we did record-breaking business at the box office for the live gate and had great pay-per-view buys up from last year's debut Forbidden Door, which is a big success. I just thought it was a cherry on top, like I said, of the cake that everyone wanted a piece of.
Okay, we'll wrap up over here.
Hi, Tony. Charlie from Wrestle Purists here. You've mentioned All In a few times now. With it coming up in just a couple of months, when can we start expecting the card to shape up? And do you have any plans for a full UK tour similar to what you've done in Canada?
Well, I've been telling everybody, really, it's very important for AEW to get through Forbidden Door, because tonight we were completely focused on tonight, and then we're going to push towards All In and be very focused going into All In, and then All Out's a quick turnaround from All In. So there's so much exciting stuff to look forward to. I mentioned the launch of Fight Forever too. We've got a lot of things that business priorities right now, but All In, it's going to be huge. We're going to start taking focus on the matches very soon, whether it's people here on AEW TV, there could be involvement, people in New Japan, but they also have the G1, and we need to see who makes it through that in one piece. I was very grateful to the great question we received from our friends at Talk Sport. Thanks. You know, we've talked a little bit about All In and Bryan's injury. I was really grateful that I think there's a good chance he will be able to come back and participate in All In, which is so awesome, because when you have an injury like that, that makes it really hard. It also makes it really impressive what Bryan did out there in the main event, and to have such a great match and know that he like fought through that, it makes a great match even greater, I think, and takes the performance to another level. And that's the kind of person he is and the kind of person he's been for the company. For the matches at All In, I think like as we get closer to the event, obviously things are going to take shape. But I think after tonight, you know, we'll focus on Dynamite. Okay, the aftermath of Forbidden Door, and on Collision, there's a lot of exciting things happening. And I just think, you know, it's kind of an obvious answer, but like, I didn't want to lose focus on tonight because it was so important. So a lot of times when people ask me about All In, I kept saying, well, you need to see what happens at Forbidden Door, because that's really where we're 100% focused, and we can't look to All In and see who's going to be ready to wrestle and who's going to be in what condition to have a match even, or who's going to be the right matchup. You know, sometimes you just have to see it and feel it. And after tonight, I got a really good feel for where we're at. And I think it's really great. And everything was almost perfect. And it's unfortunate for TV now in the coming weeks not to have Bryan able to wrestle, but you know, it wouldn't be the first time we've had a big star injured that we've been able to make a big push. And luckily we have had some people coming back recently that have helped us get a big boost, and a lot of people that have been a big part of it since day one. So it'll start to take focus here in the coming weeks, but it's certainly like the cool, you know, tonight was like a real highlight for me and I didn't want to lose track of it. But then we're going to do something there that is really historic. And I hope it's something we'll do multiple times. You don't know when you do something like that if you'll ever be able to do it again. But my dream was to do something like what All In is going to be. And I hope it's not the only time we do it. But tonight was really special. And so I just didn't want to take the eye off the prize tonight. And so I'll definitely, like, you know, soak it up tonight. And then I have ideas for All In, but I just wanted to see where this landed. If there are any other ones, I just want, it's important for people, especially people who traveled or just anybody who came and stayed through this that wants to ask me a question. I want to make sure you all get a chance. Hey, Liam.
Hi, Tony. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I know
thought
you
of
got
one
a
more
chance,
question. The reason why I asked this question, I drove here from Boston today, and you got a very big show coming up in Boston in July. And it's at the TD Garden, where we're not going to where the Boston Terriers play. We're going to where the Celtics play, bigger arena. Is there a possibility that we're getting a bigger version of Dynamite there? I'm just saying, I've seen 2 steel cages in the TD Garden as little as like less than a year ago. So
well, there's been a lot of rumors about that show. I think it's going to be a very big show at the TD Garden in Boston. I wanted our first show at the Garden to be something special. I've gone to the Garden as a fan before, and I love wrestling, and that's one of the great venues. And you always want to do something special at those marquee, iconic places. And I think that's going to be a really big Dynamite July 19th in Boston. Absolutely. Thank you for asking about that. I really appreciate that. I know Raph appreciates that too. Thanks, Liam.
Hi, Tony. Amos Mina again with Slam Wrestling. Quick question. Everybody also has been asking about All In, and obviously there's a lot of hype and excitement for that event, but Ring of Honor has Death Before Dishonor coming up. Any word on what might be planned for that, or any expectations for that event coming up? Because that will be a big event as well.
It's a huge event, and it's a great question. Tonight we saw Ring of Honor champions involved in big matches. For example, to have Claudio Castagnoli involved in that 10-man tag. I think Claudio is a huge part of the BCC, and he's very involved every week in AEW. You see Claudio wrestle on AEW TV all the time, and also regularly featured in Ring of Honor. He has a Proving Ground match against Chuck Taylor, which I thought would be a very cool match for the fans this Thursday night. But Claudio is active in both AEW and ROH. It was great to have him out here tonight. And I just kind of want to see where people are coming out of the matches. You never know where people are going to be. Are they going to be injured? And now that we've gotten through, exact same answer, I would say, if it's important for Death Before Dishonor too, we needed to get through Forbidden Door because you had your world champion involved. You had the ROH Pure champion involved in AEW and in Forbidden Door recently. So really very cool stuff happening in ROH and in AEW. And I think now that we got through Forbidden Door, especially on ROH TV in the coming weeks, that card's about to take shape, and there's some great stuff happening. I thought Supercard of Honor was a really great show. One thing that's going to make the show different this year, we know Eddie Kingston's in the G1, right? I think everyone knows that. So Eddie Kingston is G1. He was great on Supercard of Honor. So that's going to be different. I think Eddie Kingston has been great in ROH, but now he's going to go and do some wrestling in New Japan. But before he goes, he's still here in AEW, and he's still going to be around a little bit longer before he goes to the G1. So tune in to AEW in the coming weeks. But for ROH, we know that's going to be a change. So that's one thing I've taken into account. So definitely ROH is going to take place and take shape very, very soon. And All In also in the weeks to come. But very good question there, and also a really good question about Boston, because that's a big show for us. Anything else?
Lyric Swinton Women's Wrestling Talk. 2 questions. So right now, AEW and Ring of Honor have 3 very strong women's champions in Athena, Chris Statlander, and Toni Storm. With the recent addition of Collision, can we expect for an expansion of opportunities for both women's divisions? And second question is, as the South Carolinian, Are we getting shows in the Southeast anytime soon? You all made your debut in South Carolina, specifically on the March 30th Dynamite last year. But we would love to see more AEW in the Southeast specifically. So is there any, updates on that?
Well, I think there is, Raf. We just announced, Raf, you could clarify the exact dates, but I know we're going there very soon. Yep. Yep. Greenville, Greensboro, and we're coming to Georgia too. So big shows in South Carolina and Georgia, and very excited to go to North Carolina. So yeah, absolutely. A lot of shows coming up in the Southeast very soon. And as to your great questions about the women's division, great in AEW and ROH to have great champions. Also now, very fitting with Forbidden Door, the New Japan strong women's champion has also been competing. So really there's been 4 strong women's champions, in my opinion, on AEW, because you've had the AEW women's world champion, Toni Storm, who is on a roll right now. And then you have the great TBS champion, who's been a great fighting champion with Chris Statlander, who's gone out on TV and house shows regularly and has made great defenses of the championship since she won it from Jade Cargill, who was a great dominant champion. I think, of course, Athena has been on a great roll in Ring of Honor, and then in AEW picked up a great win tonight in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. And Willow has been a great champion and a great, really fighting wrestler, working on whether it's Dynamite or Collision or tonight on Forbidden Door and New Japan Strong. She's been great. So right now I feel like we actually have 4 great champions here, to your point. And so I definitely want them to keep having great matches. And I thought tonight we had a couple great matches. Billy Starks is somebody who's come a long way really quickly. Very excited about her. She had a great match with Athena. Sky Blue, great match with Anna Friday night. And we saw her looking on after the match tonight. She's going to be facing the winner of Britt versus Ruby on Wednesday. So that's another match I'm excited for. So a lot of great things. But like I said, working with New Japan and having the Strong Championship involved and having the strong champion in Willow has been great too. And excited for those shows in the Southeast. Thanks for asking about that. That again teed up a great live events plug for us. So thank you. Like I said, is there anybody else who hasn't got a chance to ask something that wants to? Great. Okay. I really appreciate everyone being here. You guys have been amazing. The crowd was amazing tonight, and all of you were great. Thanks for sticking around and giving us this great chance to plug our shows, but also I'm always happy to answer your questions, because without your coverage of AEW, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to launch this in the first place and make so many fans happy. And tonight I really thought we did that. So thank you very much. See you. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony.